and it should be live now.
Cool. Okay. Hey everyone, this is Elaine with OKCoin. I lead up our crypto partnerships team. I'm really excited to be here today with Mitchell Moos, who's the managing editor of Crypto Briefing, on the third or fourth episode of our OKCoin Community Leader Series. We were just debating with whether this is number 3 or number 4, but we'll go with either. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks so much for chatting with us, Mitchell. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here, Elaine. I'm great. How are you?
Good. I can't believe it's Friday. I feel like this week has been very long and very busy.
I can't believe we're at 20K.
Yeah. What a crazy week. Seriously, I was chatting with Zach, who's also on the OKCoin crypto partnerships team, and Zach's been in it for a really long time, and he was telling me that the first Bitcoin when he bought Bitcoin for the first time, it was $11. So yeah, like what a week. Yeah. Well, so
I'm still a little bit in disbelief, honestly. Like, if you survived from 2017 and you've been through these last 3 years through the bear market, then this is quite the time to celebrate. That's for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like a bit of an interloper just because I got into crypto pretty late. I didn't get it until like late 2018. And so it is really interesting to see like my perception of the space and then compare it to like yours or Zach's perception of the space.
Well, late is relative here. I mean, relatively early compared to most people, but late compared to the next years who've been in this space since like 2012 or earlier. So
that's what I'm hoping. Cool. So tell us a bit about how you got into this space and kind of what you've been up to in the past couple of years.
Well, I initially got into crypto through cryptocurrency mining. At first, I was a little bit skeptical and not particularly rich, so I didn't think it made sense to invest in Bitcoin. I didn't really understand it. This was prior to 2017, but a few of my friends in high school, they were really into privacy. They're the kind of people who lived off of Linux and used private messaging servers to communicate with each other. And I ran with this crowd, so they coerced me into setting up a Bitcoin node and doing some mining, and that's how I got involved.
That's actually really cool. I feel like it's not common for people to have like mining be the first foray into crypto. I've always thought it's like a relatively high barrier to entry.
Well, you have to also keep in mind that the infrastructure around exchanges and actually purchasing Bitcoin were not as developed earlier on. So if you're one of the early people, the best way to get exposure to Bitcoin really was through mining. Because if you don't have trustworthy exchanges and if you have to go through all these weird hoops to actually get exposure, then cryptocurrency mining actually was the easiest way to get Bitcoin.
Huh. Yeah, I guess when you put it in.
I had a great conversation with the Brock Pierce, Mastercoin, one of the co-founders of Tether, one of the co-founders of Epos, and he was telling me he was way earlier than even me. That the same thing with Ethereum, when there isn't a sophisticated exchanges and a lot of infrastructure around these cryptocurrencies, and there's not a lot of trading volume going on, like the easiest way to actually do it is just to spin up a few computers and start mining the stuff. Like,
yeah, I guess when you put it that way, that's a fair point. Okay, so then how did you go from mining to crypto briefing?
Kind of accidentally. I was really big into mining. My first startup was around designing better profit switching algorithms, mostly for Ethereum-based, like Ethash, Equihash, GPU-based cryptocurrencies. And I was writing quite a bit about how to maximize and like optimize mining operations, because back then mining was mostly driven by hobbyists. There wasn't these huge mining farms, and now it's mostly big players in China and the United States who get access to cheap electricity. But early on, one of the main ways people got interested in cryptocurrency was all these hardware geeks who just loved building computers and like collecting cryptocurrency. It's just a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So I initially got involved in that end, and some of my writing and just random blogs about how to be a more profitable miner were pretty successful in terms of impressions. And I got an offer to start writing for Crypto Slate, the publication I worked for prior to Crypto Briefing. And I did it part-time. And I kind of gradually and almost accidentally became a journalist just through interest in crypto. So it was a multi-year process, but initially I was working as a project manager for a software company, and I had no idea that I was gonna fall into the journalism industry or media in general.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like the best journalists are those who really understand their subject matter. And so I'm sure that your experience mining and kind of writing about that really informed your outlook and kind of your ability to evaluate the space.
Most definitely. But I would also say that it does introduce some bias. I'm obviously bullish on cryptocurrency. I think that there's a lot of potential there. So if you ask me to think critically about the industry, I would say that I'm probably more level-headed than a Bitcoin maximalist. But when it comes to, say, a financial journalist, maybe I might not be the best person to criticize, like, what are the shortcomings of the cryptocurrency sector.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess the way we look at mining is, it's obviously super important, but I think it's something that is still, I don't know, I would venture to say it's almost a more immature space when it comes to kind of like the development and like how people actually understand it. So I do think it's really interesting that you came from mining, which is so foundational to crypto, and then are now at this kind of like higher level of like looking at the crypto industry as a whole, and seeing that, kind of intimate knowledge with that foundational layer. So I actually think kind of your trajectory to from mining to journalism is really awesome.
Yeah, I would agree. I think mining is one of the more misunderstood areas of crypto, simply because it's mostly B2B now. Like, you don't have a huge hobbyist community around Bitcoin mining anymore, or it's not nearly as large as it used to be, because it's very hard to be competitive as a small like mining facility operator. Yeah.
And what's your take on that? I know that there's a lot of discussion around mining centralization. What's your opinion there?
So it's a little bit nuanced. I don't think it's a problem for cryptocurrencies with a large network. So to give you an example, like Bitcoin relative to Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin has a huge amount of hash going towards it, while Bitcoin Cash has a much smaller amount of hash. Someone could opportunistically attack Bitcoin Cash using hash power from Bitcoin without risking the value of their machines. So if you have a centralized cartel of miners who conduct an attack on Bitcoin, it's not in their long-term interest, because now these ASICs, these machines that they spent thousands of dollars on and invested millions of dollars on with the expectation that Bitcoin would have value long-term, is no longer there. So they would be hurting themselves. So I think that mining centralization in terms of its risk relative to Bitcoin and Ethereum are overblown.
And how about for other ecosystems?
Other ecosystems, you better beware. which is why you've seen attacks on things like Ethereum Classic.
Yep.
Because
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
There's no reason why people wouldn't attack it. It's in their interest to just screw it up.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely made a lot of a big comeback. We list ETC, and so we were in very close communication with their dev team during that hack, and I gotta say, I was impressed by the way they handled it, despite it being like maybe a less than surprise.
Well, I think Ethereum Classic is on its way out.
Well, yeah, we'll keep that. I didn't say that. You said that. We'll just keep it
Yep.
there. Nice. So this year has obviously been really unique and interesting. From like macro, like global economic, whatever. Like the rest of the world is kind of, going a little bit crazy. But talk to me about kind of your retrospective on crypto for 2020. What was this year like for you?
Pretty volatile.
Yeah.
I remember in March when Bitcoin plummeted below 4,000 or 5,000. I was pretty concerned, a little bit spooked, mostly from a business perspective, because if Bitcoin prices are low, companies like OKCoin and Crypto Briefing, they're not doing so hot. People aren't as interested in reading news or trading when their investments are underwater. But I think that particular event shook out a lot of people who weren't ideologically convicted to holding Bitcoin long term. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw so much explosive growth this year, is that now that prices are rising, who are the people that are going to sell into the market? They're going to be people with low conviction that Bitcoin is a sound investment long term. All those people probably, or a lot of them probably sold at 4, 5, or 10,000 even.
Yeah, I actually remember that day. I think it was like sometime in March when it really started to drop. And I remember this really vividly because it was right as OKCoin went into work from home. I think it was like a week or two before California went into not a mandatory, but like a work from home, like stay at home order. And I remember sitting super uncomfortably at my kitchen table because I had yet to set up a work from home setup, and like frantically buying more as I was like, oh my God, it keeps on dropping. I'm like, I need more. And I remember like my work messages going off. I'm like, guys, I just wait, just give me a second. Let me buy a little bit. I have important things to do right now. But yeah, I remember that day. It's very marked in my memory this year. So then, as you mentioned, like the explosive growth, right? I think we can't talk about this year without talking about DeFi, kind of really exploding over the summer. From a news perspective, I'm interested to get your take as a journalist on what it feels like and what it means when you have these massive kind of trends and initiatives blow up, and like how you cover that and how you engage with that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing the market narrative and trends shift substantially since I first got involved in cryptocurrency. Like first it was like layer 2 scaling, and I don't know, Ethereum clones were the hot topic. And then that moved over to also privacy. I guess privacy coins even predated the Ethereum clones and scaling. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you kind of transitioned into oracles, and you finally kind of saw DeFi bubbling up to the surface. And I would say there's something fundamentally different about DeFi, in that a lot of these earlier projects, privacy coins aside, I think privacy coins really do have a solid niche and a good use case. Mm-hmm. But like scaling, like these other networks like Epos, Tron, Cardano, they kind of have gone about adoption in the reverse way. If you've ever, there's like 2 seminal books I'm thinking about. If you ever read like 0 to 1 or Crossing the Chasm, there are 2 fundamental books about startups and talking about finding product market fit, and also about how to like build a new technology. That they're related. It's related to these earlier networks because these projects they had this huge vision. During the ICO days, they're going to say they're going to tackle this big thing. Like Ripple says that they're going to transform remittances and inter-border payments or something like that. They're tackling this huge market. Same thing with Cardano. They're saying that, there's these big flaws in Ethereum. We're going to build a better Ethereum. The same thing with like Epos. The same thing with Tezos. They say that because that there's this huge problem that Ethereum's not going to scale, and that we need to build all these decentralized applications, we're going to do this huge project and tackle this entire market and try to take everything. I don't think that really works. And what makes DeFi so fascinating is that they've found this very, very core group of users that is finding utility in these things right now. For example, like Uniswap is profound. The way that they actually settle orders versus a centralized exchange it just blows my mind. Like automated market makers versus what an exchange typically uses is called a club system, where everyone could just place orders, as many orders as they want all the time. And it just has to be like very high throughput. But Uniswap was able to solve that using some very clever math to create a market that's actually less volatile than a centralized exchange. So they work within the constraints of what's available on Ethereum to solve this pressing problem. And through that, they're providing a lot of value to their customers, like people who want to buy without needing to go through KYC, people who want to buy while still being completely within the decentralized crypto ecosystem. Like I was just like, what the heck? That's incredible. But compare that with like Cardano, Ripple, EOS, Tezos, IOTA. They have this big grand vision, but then 3-4 years pass and they don't actually deliver on any of it, and they're not serving any users. It's just ghost towns. I think that's also what differentiates Ethereum from, say, EOS or Tezos, is that you're seeing material usage. Like there's actually people using these smart contracts and building on top of it. Although it may have limitations, I think that for any blockchain network, the network effects of that particular technology are probably more important than like objectively how much throughput or how good the technology might sound on paper.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that's a really interesting point. I guess, my reaction to your analysis of like the success or maybe lack thereof of certain protocols is the more targeted you are when you launch and find your product market fit, the easier it is to actually have these like ecosystem multipliers, right? To actually bring utility at a higher level. I think that's a really interesting take. I wonder actually kind of, as a centralized exchange, right, we have done a lot of soul searching this year in terms of our role and how we can continue to contribute to the ecosystem as DeFi continues to grow. And I think where we are right now has been, like you said, DeFi does attract a very discrete group of people, right? People who are more sophisticated, they are crypto native, they don't want a KYC, they know what they're doing, they know how to use DeFi. There's still a large part of like even the crypto ecosystem, but mainstream as well, like non-crypto natives who are, I think, interested or would be interested in DeFi in theory, but still have trouble getting involved. And I think that's kind of how we've had to repivot this year to understand our own position in the market. And I think the first thing that we did, which was really, really great, and maybe not something that we've seen yet in the market, is being able to package the existing DeFi into a super user-friendly gateway. I think it was, one of the reasons why this week was so long was earlier this week, we launched a new product called our DeFi Earn, or like OKCoin Earn. And we've just taken a number of like the best performing DeFi protocols and enabled our own users to engage in those protocols in a super like user-friendly, easy and consolidated way. And for us, it's not about like, reshaping everything, redoing everything, or like reinventing the wheel. It's more about taking, like you said, what works, working within the constraints of our own centralized ecosystem, building on top of that, and then making it a clear like product market fit for our own users who are interested in DeFi, but maybe, don't want to like search around and like go to Curve and Yearn and Compound and Aave and like all these other really great, but still kind of complex technologies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, at least from OKCoin's perspective, a word of caution would be you better iterate quickly when it comes to usability, because an exchange like Uniswap, we have our own research product called Symmetry. And every month we make recommendations to about 800 paying subscribers on one really hot token we think has a lot of upside potential. And the people who typically subscribe to our research service are white collar professionals. They're like doctors, lawyers. They're not very technologically savvy, but they're motivated to find good investments that aren't listed on conventional exchanges. And the only places that they can find them are going to be on decentralized exchanges.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been too difficult for us to educate this user base and tell them, here's all the steps you need to go through to buy on Uniswap. And many of them have found it even easier than using a centralized exchange because they don't have to go through this super rigorous KYC process and they're like, oh, what's your address? How much money are you making? Where's all this money coming from? In fact, many of those users come to us just like, I don't know why I haven't been using Uniswap this entire time. So within the constraints of OKCoin, you better move quickly because DeFi might eat your lunch.
Yeah. So to all my product team colleagues who I know are listening to this live stream, I hope you heard that because we're basically being told by journalists that we need to move fast. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's what makes crypto so exciting, right? Like everything moves so fast and there's so much innovation and it's also incredibly stressful, right? Like I think on the one hand, we're like in awe, right? Like, oh my God, like look at what they're doing. On the other hand, we're like, oh shit, right? Like we need to understand and like reevaluate our priorities and like how we can continue to support. Because, at the end of the day, our mission is the same, which is to bring financial inclusion. It's to make it easy and affordable for people to have financial sovereignty, right? That's a really big goal, and it can come about in like many different ways. And if we want to be relevant, it means that we need to iterate and be there
and differentiate. Like that's the same goal as Coinbase. So
yep.
And their value proposition is that it's user friendly and also that it's regulated and it's within the confines of you're not going to get dinged by the IRS or something if you use Coinbase because we have good tax reporting and all these other compliance layers built on top of it. So people who want to go that route, typically what they think is, oh, of all the US exchanges, who do I trust? Gemini, Coinbase, and then the exchanges where they're just like, I don't know so much. They're like probably Binance US, Bittrex. And actually, I'd throw Kraken up there with the list of Gemini, Coinbase, and Kraken are probably the market leaders right now. And Kraken probably caters more specifically to crypto diehards. Gemini is more institutional, I would say, and Coinbase is really going after retail. So within those confines, OKCoin probably needs to find some sort of niche that isn't occupied and hit it out of the park if they want to survive.
Yeah, and that's our goal. And I think we've done a lot this year, I think, to do that. One of the things at a foundational layer that we would love for people to truly know is, and I say this with the understanding that I might get some laughs or whatever, but I think, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so we are actually like very like ethos driven, but in less of like a top down way. I think, everyone that we work with and hire and engage with, like have a very, like we all have like really diverse backgrounds, right? I came from a very traditional consulting background. And actually the first way I actually got into crypto was because I was working on certain like procurement and operations cases where my clients were looking at incorporating blockchain technology to manage their like supply chain, which is like super, I would say, not sexy and kind of like very like, just like blockchain, but like blockchain is very niche and that can only be used for like supply chain work. But I think, as you continue to like work with people who care and are curious, your worldview on what crypto can be definitely changes. And I think that kind of is the same application and kind of path that we want to bring our own users on, right? And so I think for us, like, yes, like finding a niche and like finding a niche user base is really important. But I think for us, I think we feel good about the products that we are bringing out that are like user friendly, have product market fit, are early in some cases, like our DeFi Earn or like our Earn product. But then actually recognizing that a lot of really great work has been done by Coinbase and Gemini and Kraken, and we're here to improve upon that, right? One thing that we are really proud of is, we've never had downtime, right? We take a lot of kind of emphasis and effort on like the actual reliability of our platform and site. And so we will continue to do that. And And we know that financial inclusion needs to be affordable. And so our fees, whether they're like transaction or network or all of these things, is probably one of the first things that we look at with each new product that we launch, right? How do we make this product affordable for obviously our institutional and really sophisticated traders, but also our average retail traders? And I think that's something that we can, we're really proud of, and we actually have no problem like telling people. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to let me show my company a bit. It's a really great platform. We are iterating really quickly. We're listening to a lot of kind of user feedback and doing what we're doing right now, which is to talk to community leaders and industry experts to see kind of, where we need to go and like what that means and how we can be a better partner to people in the ecosystem. Cool, so thanks for that. When you were first getting started in crypto, right? So, as we bring our own users onto the crypto journey, what would you, what type of advice would you give them as people getting, first entering the crypto ecosystem?
It's a lot easier to learn when you have skin in the game. That's for sure. Like if you're on the sidelines and you're interested in Bitcoin, you feel like, oh, you want to learn more before taking the plunge. I'm just like, no, you're not going to be motivated. You're going to wait forever, and you're just going to see the price go up and down, and that hesitation might cost you. I think the best way is throw $50 in, and now you actually have some motivation to dig deeper and learn a little bit more about how this technology works, and you have some of it. So send some Bitcoin around, send some to your friends, see how it works, and try to understand it a little bit better. Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think it's something that you hear really often. I think the first episode of this we did it with this guy named Justin Wu, and he said the exact same thing. Like, put skin in the game, play around with them, earmark a little bit to put into crypto, and it's the best way to learn.
I would say that the second recommendation I'd give is trying to time the market and ask whether it's the right time to buy or sell is probably the wrong way to go about it. Like, I'm of the camp that in the short term, nobody can really predict prices. Like, no one really saw March coming along, and I don't think anyone predicted that suddenly Bitcoin would just jump to 20K. There's people who have long-term theses that over time, Bitcoin's going to keep appreciating. But even some of the pundits who've been in crypto for a long time, like Anthony Pompliano or like McAfee, they've been consistently wrong about their predictions. Just like, this is the year Bitcoin's finally going to break 50K. Or if you're like Tom Lee, they're basically just making ridiculous like price predictions that it's just going to be higher than it is today. And I think that in one sense, they're right. Over time, assuming that as adoption continues and as Bitcoin's network effects continue to grow, of course, its price is going to go up. Like, it's simple economics. It's scarcity. So if more people want it, the price has to go up over time. But a matter of predicting when or how its price is going to go up, I don't think anyone can do that. So the best bet you have is just dollar cost average and set a very long time horizon. So 5-10 years, if that's when you plan to take your retirement or buy a house or something, then just keep setting it aside and don't even look at the price. Don't worry about it.
Gotcha. So your advice is it's still not too late. Get in now, play around, get to know it.
Get in now, but don't bet the house on it. and do it slowly, dollar cost average. Like, people who make impulsive, like, okay, I'm going to put all my net worth into Bitcoin right now at 20K. Well, if the price goes to 5K, you might get burned. But if you put $100 into Bitcoin every week for the next 5 years, I'm pretty confident that you're going to come out ahead.
Yeah. And I think a lot of exchanges have made that possible, right? Like, we have our own recurring buy. I know a lot of our colleagues use that just to kind of, it's like an easy way to just like set it and forget about it, right?
Well, I hope it's reasonable. Coinbase's recurring buy costs you like $2 flat fee and then like 3%. So I'm just like, that's kind of silly. Very expensive.
That is silly. Ours is not like that. I don't know the exact fee structure, but that's silly. That's dumb. You mentioned earlier that 2020 was super volatile, right? When you look back on it, was there anything that was super surprising for you? Anything that jumped out?
I think DeFi popping off the way it did was surprising.
Yeah.
It really blew up. Like, I didn't think Andre would become a celebrity. Andre was one of the early contributors at Crypto Briefing, and he did a lot of our code reviews with us. And he's an equity holder in the company. So it was really cool seeing Yearn get out there and actually become a big success, because it was like, oh, our designer made their logo, and like we've worked with Andre. So that was pretty cool. But just seeing a lot of these projects that we've worked with in the past, and that we've been there in the same rooms and talked to them and heard their pitches when they just started building, and seeing them become runaway successes, that's amazing. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. That is really amazing. Looking forward to 2021, do you think we'll see something similar like DeFi Pop, or what are you looking forward to most? And hopefully what is to be a less shitty year?
I think DeFi will continue to be the trend, the relevant trend, because that's where all the innovation and utility is being built. I mean, maybe one day you might see Cardano actually launch something meaningful, or you might see IOTA actually build something and not just have some airy partnership. But until then, I'm placing my bets on DeFi.
Yeah, cool. I think we are too. Yeah, I'm not ashamed.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, if you're going to go that route, I would say probably be more aggressive with listing DeFi projects, because one of the main constraints that people have is they want to get in on these projects early, and there's nowhere to get exposure to them except on decentralized exchanges. So if you're someone who is unsophisticated and you have comfort with a centralized exchange, we get this request all the time as well. Can I buy this on Coinbase or on Gemini or something? And I'm just like, no, if you want to get high yields, then you need to take the risk and go through a decentralized exchange. But if a centralized exchange could fill that role, then I'm sure that people would use it. Yeah,
I feel like I need to give Zach a shout out for getting you on. I feel like I'm bearing my soul to you, and like all your questions and my comments have been like super prescient. Yes, your point on listing new DeFi assets is really important. And I can say this because as part of the crypto partnerships team, the listing team sits on that as well. And so that is very much something that we're looking at, how to be faster, how to get really great DeFi projects that have a good balance between yield and utility, but also like security and just overall value. And so I think that very much is one of our priorities for 2021.
Well, you're never going to be 100% secure. So that is one warning I'll say, is that no matter what kind of DeFi project you are, it doesn't matter how many audits you get or how many people use your platform. Eventually, you're going to get exploited, and you're going to lose. People are going to be angry at you because you lost several $1 million, or people got rug pulled or something. So there's no surefire way that these experiments, these finance experiments, every once in a while, they're going to blow up. So people, when they participate in that, they have to keep that in mind to limit their risk. And I think that the same goes for exchanges. Like, it doesn't matter whether Yearn has a bunch of users and they're the top DeFi protocol. They got listed on Coinbase, and eventually one of the things that Coinbase lists is going to turn out to be, is going to blow up. And the same thing's going to go for OKCoin. So just be prepared. Thank you.
Well noted. I'm sure I'll be summoned by our compliance officers after this chat. Cool. So we always end our segments with rapid fire one word. Normally there are like, we kind of go, like Zach and I and Steve will go over these questions and kind of set the tone. And I actually just want to, out of the 5 that we initially brainstormed, 2 are no longer relevant. And I think that goes to show you how crazy this week has been. The first question was, will Bitcoin reach 20K by the end of the year? And we wrote these on Monday. So obviously that question is moot.
Rapid fire response is yes.
The second question we had was, will we see any exchange IPOs in 2020?
Actually, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think Coinbase will actually IPO in 2020, but
really?
2021, probably.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I was lumping it in all kind of as like the announcement, but that's That is a valid distinction. Okay, so the other remaining three, I think we'll start right now if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Okay. Will Bitcoin ever lose market dominance?
Yes. But market dominance in the sense that right now it's 60% of the market capitalization by dominance, it's probably going to go down. Once Bitcoin enters a range and slows down, typically that's when altcoins pop and the dominance kind of switches.
Okay, cool. Number one underrated token.
Kusama, in my opinion. That was our November pick of the month. I think Polkadot, they're a $4 billion blockchain, but a lot of the innovations happening on this much smaller, I guess, like test chain, Kusama. And I think that they're going to appreciate significantly in the future.
Okay, cool. And last one, definitely not the least. What word summarizes crypto in 2020? And you can't say volatile because you've already said that.
Okay, crazy.
Okay, I'll take it. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Mitchell, for joining us. We'd love to have you again. I really enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much, and hopefully we'll still hear. Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to.
Give back my regards.
Zach, do you want to say hi? I know you're on.
You guys did great. All right.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining.
We'll be in touch.